Today's card is a very cheerful Christmas card. It says, "May your days be merry and bright." And today we're showcasing a cutting die set, some paper tulle, and some Christmas embellishments and bellies. And I hope you guys enjoy this card. Today I will be working with the Joyous Greetings 3D paper tulle, the Christmas cheer embellies, the layering frames cutting dies, and some metallic gold specialty paper. And look how lovely this gold is. It's kind of a satiny gold. It's not like a mirror gold. It's really nice especially when you use it with the cutting dies. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so I have my eBosser machine here. I'm just gonna press the power button, turn that on. And I have cut a piece of the gold metallic paper to just larger than my square frame here. And just a tip to save a little bit of paper, if you're cutting out this shape, you might as well cut out the others inside of it too. So I'm going to go ahead and place them in here, and they all fit. Just have to move them around. Now this is on the magnetic shim of the eBosser sandwich, I guess you would call this. So we have platform D, and then platform C, and then platform B, and then the magnetic shim, which helps your cutting dies not to move. And then we'll have our gold metallic paper face down onto the blades, just like this. And finally, the cutting mat. This is a clear acrylic platform A. So, I take this lined up sandwich, stick it into my eBosser, see what happens. There's a little bit of a cracking noise, but that's fine. Yeah, if you heard that cracking noise, that's just the die going through the paper onto the cutting mat. Now, I would advise cutting all 3 dies, even if you're not going to use all the shapes, because you could always save the shapes for a future project. So let's see how we did here. I'll give you a close-up of this. And here's how we're looking. So, looks pretty good. The cutting die cut through the gold metallic paper just fine. Let me remove these. Take this out of the way. Now, to get these little innies out, I do have a tool. This is from Spellbinders. It's called the Tool-in-One. And it has this really stiff brush roller, and you can run it over, the top of the holes, and it will kind of poke out those innies for you. So this part is much easier than poking them out one by one as I have done in the past. So this just makes it much easier to use those detailed cutting dies. So after I kind of brush this as much as possible, if there's still some that are stuck, then you can go ahead and take the pointed end, and I have a plastic cover on this, and there's a pointed end to individually poke out some of those stubborn innies, like so. Anyway, that's just to show you this tool-in-one, and I highly recommend it if you have some detailed cutting dies that take forever to take all the innies out. So let me go ahead and peel this off. And some of the innies are still on there. I'll get those later. But here's the beautiful ornate frame. And then we also have the flourish. And this kind of came out without any innies, which is nice. There's one there. Some of them will come out really easily, but you still have to clean the innies off of your dies to use them again so that your paper doesn't get jammed in there. And then we have another flourish. And these are really, really pretty shapes. Just carefully peel that out of the die. There we go. And this gold metallic paper isn't too fragile, so just be careful when you're pulling it out of the die. There we go. And finally, the label. So even if I don't use all of these, I'm going to, keep them in a safe place for another project. Alright, so let's move on. Alright, so I've cleaned up my die cuts here, and I also have assembled my paper towel piece. So this has, I think, 4 layers on it, so I basically just put foam tape on the back of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th layers and just stack them on top of each other. As you can see, it's got multiple layers in there with the foam tape. So that's what makes paper towel a really fun dimensional addition to your projects. One other thing I wanted to point out is with this cutting die, you also get, if you don't do the other flourishes inside of the die, you'll get this really pretty shape. It's kind of a flourishy scalloped frame there. So if you want to use this shape by itself, you can just use this on its own and you'll get that really pretty inner shape to use. So on to the card. The first thing I'm going to do is take my gold frame here and my blank white card. This is 6.5 inches by 5 inches, and I'm going to set my card aside for the moment actually. This is a paper from the Christmas Cheer double-sided paper pack. I'm going to use the red pattern side and simply glue my frame onto the red paper and just trim around it. Now some of you might have a better process than this for gluing on intricate die cut shapes, but I just use my glue stick. I can't really slide it along because all of the glue will get smushed into the open areas. So what I do to glue intricate shapes on is I just dab my glue stick straight up and down onto the die cut. And make sure you do this over a scrap paper so that any of the excess glue gets onto the scrap paper and not onto your nice paper. And so I just dab all along here until I think I've got all the sides. And then there we go. Remove my scrap paper and place it onto the corner of my nice paper. And press down. That looks pretty good. And now I can take either my scissors or a ruler with an X-Acto knife and simply cut the straight lines here on the edge. Pretty simple to do. I have my blank card here with this green diamond paper. The back of it, if you're wondering, is this brown or black chalkboard. So that's the other side. So I covered my card and I'm going to take my square and turn it on point so it's a diamond and just glue it centered on my card. Just make sure to get glue on the top and bottom points here. the design of the paper kind of guides the placement here. So that's kind of nice. Now I'm going to trim off my edges. That's what it means in some instructions when I say trim excess. Just trim it off the edge so it's nice and aligned with your card. Now I'm going to glue a series of ribbon strips along the bottom of my card, starting with this ivory one. And you can use zips or you can use tacky glue, whatever adhesive you want. This time I'm going to use tacky glue. I'm going to put it right on my ribbon. Just a thin line here. I like to just use my finger to smooth it out and then turn it over and glue it down. And just a thin layer of glue if you're using liquid glue, just a thin layer of glue so that it doesn't get everything wrinkled or warped. And then I'm going to take this green twill ribbon and do the same thing. And for the edges, if you want, you can go on the card and just do a little line of glue on each edge so it really secures the ends, so when you trim off the ends that they won't fray. Smooth out that glue, and if you just put it on the card you can also smooth it out on the card as well. Oops. And finally I've got this burgundy stitched ribbon, which is really pretty. I'm going to put that right on top, in between the two. Now, when you trim these, make sure you have an extra sharp pair of scissors and turn it over to the back and trim off the ends. There are the nice clean cut ends. And I'm also going to put some of this same ribbon along the sides of this square here. So I'm just going to cut it right there. Another way to glue on ribbon, if you don't want to do it on the ribbon itself, is to place the glue in a straight line on the card where you want the ribbon to go. So just a couple of options. You can find out which one you like the best. And I also have a length of ribbon that has a bow on it. I'm just going to trim the edges of the bow. I've already actually rubbed in some of the tacky glue into these ends of the ribbon. So now when I trim it, the ribbon doesn't fray. So same process. This is going to go right here. And with tacky glue, unlike zips, you will have to wait a little bit for it to dry, but not really that long. Just turn it over and same thing. Trim the ends. Now I'm ready to put my focal piece on. It's going to go right there. First I want to put some foam tape on the back. So just a couple pieces. That should be enough. And right in the middle, okay, now I'm going to add some of the Christmas cheer embellies. I've taken out a large brad here, and what I like to do with these brads, instead of having to bore a hole in my card and have the ends poking through, I simply take off the ends. So what I do is I bend back the legs here and just do this multiple times and they snap right off. So no wire cutters needed, although you could certainly use them if you wanted to. Now I have this blank embellishment that has kind of a recessed area on the back, and what I do now is take a piece of foam tape which fits right inside of the center, peel off the backing, and then I can place this where I like. So to set off the bow, to balance that out, I'm going to have a little grouping of brads here in the bottom left corner. So I've got a large brad there, and then I also have the next size down, this yellow one. I'm just going to bend off the legs again. And I've got a piece of foam tape to fit. There we go. And put it right beside the first brad. And I have a even smaller brad. Gonna take off the legs or the prongs of the brad. Bend, bend, bend. And this one's being a little more stubborn, but you just gotta stick with it. There we go. And another piece of foam tape. That one fits. Take off the backing. And that will fit right down here. And there's my little grouping on the edge of the card. And you can use different colors and sizes of brads as you wish, but that's the general idea. So now the front of my card is finished, and there's the full view of the front. Now on the inside, what I've done so far is I've glued a strip of this pattern paper. This is an 1.5 inch wide strip, and then a 1/2 inch wide strips of the green pattern paper on top and bottom. And then I took 2 of these large flourishes. So that's here's the empty shape of the flourish. I cut 2 gold flourishes and glued them, mirroring each other, top and bottom. And now I'm taking the Christmas cheer. This is from the Christmas cheer embellies. Came right off of there, and it has its own brad. I didn't bother bending the legs off that one, I just connected them. Or I just inserted the brad in there, and then I put foam tape, and that's gonna be right in the center of the gold flourishes. So the flourishes gives it a nice backdrop. Now if I were sending this card in the mail, I probably would refrain from the foam tape and the brad on the inside because the front does have a lot of layers already. But you could keep it and then just add more postage. I think it's a 1/4 inch for US postage is the maximum for a regular stamp, but you just have to figure out the regulations on that if you want to mail it. So now my card is finished. I hope you guys enjoyed this happy, cheerful Christmas card. In the bundle are 2 sheets of this metallic gold specialty paper, and they are really, really pretty. They have kind of a satiny finish to them, and perfect for cutting dies and matting photos, you know, adding a little border to your paper, and it just adds that extra shine. And there's the Layering Frames cutting dies. So this comes with 4 cutting dies on it. We've got a little label here, and there's also 2 really ornate flourishes, as well as this pretty square frame, which is 4 1/4 inch square. Then we have the Christmas Cheer Embellies pack, and it has 28 brads on it. Some of them have a decorative outer paper design, and for the tag you can customize that with your own greeting or name. And the brads are really cute, and this is made to match with the Christmas Cheer paper pack, and it's a double-sided paper pack, but you can use other papers with it as well. And finally, the Joyous Greetings paper toll. So there are 3 joyous greetings on here. The joy to the world. Have yourself a merry little Christmas, and may your days be merry and bright. And each of these has different layers that you layer on top of it with foam tape, so the instructions will be right here on the set if you're not familiar with paper toll. But it's a really fun addition to all of your projects, especially if you want to create some dimension on your projects. And those are all the items in this week's bundle. Thank you so much for joining me, and come again next week.